In Unit 4, we were talking about official correspondence. We started with some letters and then we moved on to difference between commercial and official correspondences. We talked about memorandum, which is also known as memo in short. We also talked about notices and how to draft such notices. Then we moved over to a discussion. Today we are going to move over to a discussion on circulars. What are circulars and why they are required in organizations, and how do we design these circulars? How do we draft these circulars? This is going to be the discussion today. Now let us first understand what circulars are and how they are used in organization. Essentially a letter which contains important information and distributed to a large number of people. So it is different from notice. It is basically some kind of a letter, but it contains important information and it is distributed to a large number of people. Notices are also meant for a large number of people, but we are not very much concerned whether they actually have read the notice or not. But in circular, we want to be absolutely sure that the audience to whom these circulars are intended, they have actually read the circular, they have actually gone through the circular. Is that fine? So this is how circular is different from a notice, and it is basically some kind of a letter. You would see that the drafting and the formatting is almost like a letter in a circular also. But then why do we use them if they are almost like a letter? See, to invite all staff members to a meeting. If you want to invite all staff members to a meeting, you cannot write them all individual letters. Can you write them letters individually? For example, if you are talking about Degree College Pithoragarh, there are 300 odd employees in the college, and if the principal wants to invite them all to a particular meeting, would he write individual letters to every single individual? In that manner, he would have to write 300 different letters. So instead of writing 300 different letters, what he will do, he will come up with a circular, and he would ensure that the circular is circulated among the employees, and that is why circular is known as a circular. It has to be circulated among the employees. It has to be circulated among the target audience. The target audience will go through it. They may get it photocopied for future reference, or they may take a snapshot also, they may take a snap also, photograph also. Nowadays with the availability of mobile, they have this luxury for future reference, but they cannot just keep the circular with themselves. They can take a copy of that circular, and as a proof of the fact that they have read the circular and they have been shown the circular, they will simply put their signature at the end of the circular. So this way the circular would get circulated among all the employees in the organization, and all the employees would get to know what the principal wants to communicate to them. Now why is this different from notice? Because in notice you cannot be sure that every single individual for whom this notice was meant has actually read this notice. While in circular you can be sure of this, and plus as a proof you also have everybody's signatures at the bottom. Right? So this is how circulars are used in the organization. Going back to my example, if the principal wants to invite all 300 employees, what he would do, he would come up with a circular and he would circulate the circular among the employees. The employees would go through it and they would put a signature towards the end. At the end of the circular, at the space left after the body of the circular, they would sign. This would be a proof that everybody has seen this particular circular. Is this fine? So now this circular would be circulated among all the employees. Right? If a particular employee wants to take a photocopy, they may get it photocopied. They may take a photograph also for their future reference. So circulars are used for important announcements meant for large numbers. So rather than writing individual letters, because that would be too cumbersome, because the letters would have to be sent to a large number, and rather than coming up with a notice, again that would be also not feasible here, because these are important announcements and we want everybody to see them. We would basically go for circular in such cases. Is that fine? Now let's have a look at the format of the circular. And I had told you in the last session on notices that you would find that specifically notices and circulars, you would find the format is very much same. How? Now this is a format. Have a go through the body so that you understand what is being communicated through this circular. It says suspension of work, and this is to inform the official work would remain suspended on May 3 on account of sanitation work underway in the department. However, the classes would continue as scheduled in the online mode on the aforementioned. What do we mean by the aforementioned date? Aforementioned means which has been mentioned a little while ago. So here aforementioned date is 3rd of May. So the circular communicates that the official work would not be done on 3rd of May, but the classes would continue as scheduled, and that the staff members are also expected to register their attendance as usual in the register maintained for this purpose. So the staff members have to come to the college, they have to mark their attendance, and the online classes would continue as scheduled. The only thing that would remain suspended is the official work. Fine. Note that official work would resume on May 4, 2021. So the work would again resume on the next day. Right? And please contact the undersigned for any queries in this regard. I hope now you remember undersigned means the person who has signed it, Mr. Lakhvinder Narula, who is in charge of this particular department. Right? So this circular is communicating that the official work would remain suspended on 3rd of May. Fine. And since this has to be circulated to a large number of workers, we are not writing individual letters. And since this is a very important piece of information, we also cannot rely on notices only. So that is why we have come up with this circular. Now what will happen is this circular would get circulated among all the employees in this particular department, and the employees, once they have read this particular circular, they can take a photocopy also for their future reference, or they can click a photograph also. But once they have read it, they will put their signature somewhere here, right? Somewhere here, along with the date. Now this will be a proof that these people have actually gone through the circular. They have signed it, means they have actually gone through the circular. Fine. Now have a look at the different elements in a circular. Now this is the name of the organization, and I hope you remember that it is just like in the case of notices. Then have a look, title here. There the title was notice, here the title is circular. Then this is slightly different. Circular number has been mentioned. It is something like a reference number, so that we remember. If I want to have a look at a particular circular, I can find it out from this particular number. DBA 2021 SA 13. This is basically some kind of a code that we are using to denote this particular circular. So the next circular that we might come up with might be DBA 2021/SA 14. Fine. So this is just like a reference number which you have in letters. Then we have got the date. Then we have got the headline. Now this is the headline. Right? And it need not be as sketchy as in the notice, because in notice we want people to attend to it, because we do not have any other way of ensuring that they see the notice or they go through the notice. But here, since the circular is going to be circulated among the employees, it's not very necessary for you to have a very catchy headline. Then this is the content, right? So this is how you have to write the circular, and the name and designation of the issuing authority, in this case Mr. Lakhvinder Narula. So this is how you have to design the circular. Is that making sense? Now in the next session that we'll talk about minutes of meeting. Fine. So thank you very much for your time, and kindly make a note of how these circulars or notices or whatever various tools we are discussing in unit 4, please do keep noting them in your copies for future reference also, and also so that you are able to draft a circular or draft a notice as and when required in the exams. Is that fine? So thank you very much for your time.